Okay, Bismillah. Okay, so yeah, we're ready, brother.
Okay, Bismillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless us and forgive us. We'd like to welcome you for another week of the Halaqah Embrace Sacramento Weekly Halaqah. This is, Alhamdulillah, our third session in February, which was our theme was Black History Month. And today, we are honored to have as a speaker our fearless leader, Brother Rashid, a very familiar face. And inshallah, he's going to go over Luqman al-Hakim, one of the great wise men in history. And the theme will be the advice for our youth. Before I hand the mic back to Brother Rashid, just a small reminder, I think all of you have been here before. The sessions are supposed to be interactive. Feel free to ask questions or drop any question you have in the chat. Also, if you like to ask a private question, you can send it to me privately or to any of the core members that are here. With that, I hand the mic to Brother Rashid.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So yes, welcome everyone again. As our wonderful moderator stated, thank you, Abdul Qadir. We're going to talk tonight about Luqman the Wise, and one of the surahs in the Quran was actually named after him, and we're going to talk a little bit about his history. But we're also going to try to look at some of the lessons and the jewels that came out of his life, because historically there's not a lot written about him, so there's not a ton I can say. However, the small things that he left us are wonderful lessons within those things. So inshallah ta'ala, we can learn from those and talk about those, especially when it comes to rearing our children. So I'll go ahead and start by sharing my screen here. Okay, can everybody see that PowerPoint? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, qala rabbi sadri wa yassir li amri wa luqdatan min lisani. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Take from the blacks, for surely there are three from among them that are from the leaders of the people of paradise: Luqman the Wise, Al-Najashi, and Bilal, the prayer singer." And in another narration, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The leaders of the blacks are four: Luqman the Abyssinian, Al-Najashi, Bilal, and Mehja." So it's a wonderful narration from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Luqman, his full name is Luqman bin Anka bin Sadun, or we better known Luqman the Wise, I guess is his rap name, Luqman the Wise. But pay attention specifically to his grandfather's name. So Luqman is the grandson of Sadun. So let's keep that in mind for a second here. So Luqman was known to have come from, and then there's different narrations where he's from, either southern Egypt or Ethiopia or Sudan. But in either case, this is the region in which he was born. So the eastern part of Africa. And now just to show some of the beautiful faces of that particular region, I just wanted to share a couple of things that I grabbed off of the internet. This is the skin tone and the look of the people of that particular region of southern Egypt or Sudan, Abyssinia, and then if we go down a little bit, there's Ethiopia. So this is sort of the skin tone and the beautiful eyes. And I guess me being a photographer, these faces of these children and their beautiful smiles and their eyes, just stands out. And if you know anyone from Sudan, they definitely, this is a traditional look, right? If you see this look, you know that they're probably from that particular part of the world. And these little boys, I can only imagine this is what Luqman probably looked like when he was a little kid. Now, further to dig into this, when I was searching on the internet, look for Luqman, these are the kind of pictures that came up. And I found this particularly stunning because as I've said in previous weeks, there seems to be a soft, gentle movement to sort of wash out certain parts of history. And it's often thought that people from the African region, either the Eastern or Northern Africa, or people of dark-skinned people such as myself, maybe they're deemed as less than others, or we don't know as much, and that kind of thing. But if we really look at Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and those people who had major contributions into Islam, they were dark-skinned people, as well as Arabs and other countries, Lebanon, and other countries. But I thought this was striking that on the internet, these are the kinds of images that you find. This is another picture of when I searched for Luqman the Wise that actually popped up. And this was another one that came up. So I think we just need to sort of pay attention to what's going on in the world and realize that that there is a rich history, and that there was a lot of contributions from the continent of Africa into Islam, and major contributions. So we should all recognize that. And that's part of kicking into the spirit of Black History Month, just to sort of share the life of the Sahabas and some of the people that were around the Sahaba. Now, Luqman the Wise, he was known as a carpenter. Which is quite interesting if we know other great carpenters out there like Jesus alayhi salam and others. And so he was known as a carpenter, and in some narrations he was actually a slave. In some narrations he was not. So that's debatable, but he was known to have possibly been a slave. But he had a really, really good relationship with one of his masters, and his wisdom started to kick in very early. And one day this man went to Luqman, and he said, okay, I need you to go and slaughter me a sheep and bring to me the best parts of the animal. So Luqman went out and he slaughtered the sheep, and he brought back the tongue and the heart. So he brought back the tongue and the heart. So the guy asked him, bring me the best pieces of the animal, brought back the tongue and the heart. Okay. So the next day comes. He asked Luqman to go back out and slaughter another sheep. I assume there's some kind of party or something, a gathering or whatnot. But nonetheless, he told him to go out and slaughter another sheep, but this time bring me the worst part of the animal, the absolute worst part of the animal. And Luqman brought back the heart and the tongue again. And this is the second day. So the first day he said, bring me the best, heart and tongue. Bring me the worst, the heart and the tongue. So then the gentleman wanted to Luqman to reconcile this, to explain this. Why did he take this position? And alhamdulillah, Luqman the Wise, his response was how beautiful the heart and tongue can be, and how evil the heart and tongue can be. They are the most beautiful parts in you, and the heart and tongue can be the worst parts in you. It's with the heart and tongue that you can win people forever, and it's with the heart and tongue that people can absolutely turn away from you. SubhanAllah. So this is just one little small statement, but what are some of the reflections? What are some of the things that we can learn from that if we sit, read, and reflect about those things? And number one is to guard your tongue. We have to guard what we say. We have to make sure that what we say is good and make sure it's kind. Because if we say evil things to people, they're going to push themselves away from us. And the tongue, it's a double-edged sword. And there's plenty of narrations where I can go deeper into that if I start focusing and thinking about Imam Ghazali and some of the things that he internally about what he says about the heart and the tongue. So that's one thing that we need to guard. And we also need to be careful about what enters our heart. We have windows into our heart, the things that we listen to, the things that we watch, the things that we touch, the things that we walk towards. Those are all things that can enter our heart and darken our heart. And the harder our heart gets, and the blacker our heart gets, it's going to be more and more difficult to receive knowledge and to receive understandings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we want to do what we can to protect our hearts. Another lesson that we can reflect on this, and this is just my general reflections, and if you have more, please, by all means, write them down and let's talk about them after the presentation, inshallah ta'ala. But we don't have to be a prophet and necessarily to be loved by Allah. He was just a normal guy. Luqman was not a prophet at all, but he was loved by Allah and loved to the point where he actually revealed a surah about him, and we're going to talk about that later. So you can be just an average person. And I remember I was at Tatlif in the Bay Area, and I heard someone say that it's better for Allah to love you than for you to love Allah. So I'm going to repeat that again. It's better for Allah to love you than for you to love Allah. And clearly there's value in both, but we want Allah's love. We don't have to be a prophet to make a difference in the world. You can just feed people, do good deeds, be kind to your family. It's just little things. Share, you slaughter something and bring it back to a person, and share some knowledge and share some wisdom behind that. So that we don't have to be a prophet to make a difference in the world. We all have our spaces. And in the Sufi order, it's said that everybody has a path to Allah, whatever that is, whatever that path is. And you want to have a good reputation for your name to be remembered. So Luqman was one who was wise, he was kind, he was nice. And look at this, it's thousands and thousands of years later, and we are still remembering his name. But if he was an evil, crash person, we would not be remembering his name. And if we want people to remember our name, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. And the last reflection I had on that particular lesson with the sheep is that it encourages us to do good, and it encourages us to share knowledge with people, however small or however big that knowledge is. We definitely want to share it, as long as it's sound knowledge and knowledge that can be verified of sorts. The life of Luqman the Wise. So Luqman actually studied with Dawood. So we know Dawood and Suleiman, right? And even in the Bible, they exist. And Dawood is actually the father of Suleiman. So Luqman studied with Dawood, and he lived during the time of Suleiman. And Suleiman was actually made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have wisdom, to be a just ruler. And he took some actions to actually do that. So Luqman was around during all that time. He was seeing all this and he was learning all this. So he's getting a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. And I'm quite sure that he imparted some of that knowledge and some of that wisdom with other people. And he was so smart and such a good guy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually revealed a surah, or named a surah after him. Sorry for the spelling, I put a K in here, but it's surah number 31, Surah Luqman. And that is, there's some ayats in there, ayat number 12 through 19, that we refer to as the passage of Luqman. And that is where Luqman actually gave advice to his son. And his beloved son, his name is Tharan. So that's actually not well known, his son's name. So I felt very, very blessed and honored just to know what his son's name was. But one thing about those particular passages, in reading them, and we're going to touch on those in a second here, but I honestly think, as a parent, I think this is advice that a father can give to his son, that a father can give to his daughter, that a mother can give to her son, and that a mother can give to her daughter. And hence I put those pictures on the side just to sort of illustrate this is a kind of wisdom that a parent can give to their child. And I really appreciate the fact that Luqman is from Africa, because if we look at media, and the television and movies and other places, they don't portray Black men in a very good way and in a very good light. And especially being a Black father, you rarely see that. on television, and any other spaces. But there's a lot of good fathers out there, a lot of good men out there that are actually taking care of their children and being there for the children. And so we need to recognize this, and Luqman actually sets the ground for that, if you will, for that particular environment and that reality. So on to the ayats. So this is the passage of Luqman, and there's actually 19 of them, but I wanted to highlight just a few that touched me, and in the interest of time, just wanted to speak about these just a little bit today. And again, while I'm speaking, if you guys read these and want to touch on them later, alhamdulillah, let's have a discussion about this and how we can be better parents and better children to our parents by reading these. But one of the first things that Luqman told his son in Surah 12, I didn't highlight this, but it's to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that you have. It doesn't matter if it's a Nintendo game, it's your shoes or your shirt, the house over your head, whatever it is, we need to be, please son, be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all that you have, because he is the cherisher, the sustainer, the maintainer, and the giver of all that exists. He also told his son to join not in worship others than Allah. So only worship God. Know that there's one God and there's one God alone. And I remember when my sons were little and we were going over these particular ayats, was a time when, if you guys remember him or not, was the lead singer for Nirvana, Bane, something Bane. But anyway, he passed away right at the time I was talking to my sons about this ayat. And the thing is, that musician was on top of the world. He had the hottest albums that were out there, and I'm sure quite a few people enjoyed him and maybe even looked up to him, but he committed suicide. So he had a lot of internal struggles and a lot of internal things. And I don't know what his religious belief is, and may he have a soft place in paradise or in his grave, a gentle time in his grave. But I think it's important to teach our children to worship Allah and worship Allah alone, especially with all the influencers and other things that are out there that our children can get caught up into, that are on the internet, within the social media space. But we need to let them know that all that stuff is fine and good as long as it's in the context of Islam and you're worshiping Allah and Allah alone. As a father, we need to teach our children. As a parent, we need to teach our children to respect your mother. Ayat number 14, let your child know that your mother bore you in weakness and in hardship, that she bore you for 9 months. You were in her stomach. And then after that, for 2 years, she breastfed you and then weaned you off. And she went through pain and hardship and love and all of that for you. And so we need to respect our mothers, because they are the keys to paradise, and their du'as are important. And we need to respect women in Islam, regardless of what other people say about Islam. We do respect our women. We love our women. We cherish our women, and we cherish our mothers, and we ask our children to love and respect our mothers, and also the parent, the father as well, clearly, but give that love to the mothers, if you will, show love. And in ayat number 15, now, if the parent, mother or father, if they strive with you to make you join and worship with me others than that which you have no knowledge, then obey them not, but behave with them in the world kindly. So if your parent is trying to have you commit shirk or do other things that fall against Islam or take you out of Islam, then we have an obligation and we have the right to say no, to stand firm. But we want to do that kindly. We don't never say oof to your mother, never yell at your parent and disrespect them, and always have the kindness of words with them. But we should not follow them down the space that is going to, that Allah is not going to like for us. But still and yet keep your parent with respect. And in ayat number 17, the prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us through Luqman to tell our children to perform the salat. At the end of the day, when you first take shahada, when a person first takes shahada, the very first advice that we should give them is to learn the prayers. even if you have to do them in English and then transition over to Arabic and do two a day, 3 a day, and work up to 5. And this is an excellent time to strive and work hard on that with Ramadan coming. But we want to encourage our children to perform the salat, because that is their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is how they're going to get the things out of life that they need. So on that final day, inshallah, because they're righteous children, Allah is going to enter them into paradise easily, and Allah will be merciful, forgiveness, and protect them from the hellfire, inshallah ta'ala. So have them perform salat. And I even use the analogy, kids, they love Batman and that kind of thing. The original Batman, I've heard this, you guys, I'm sure you've heard this story before, but when I was young, and I imparted this to my children, that Batman had a direct connection to Commissioner Gordon had a direct connection to Batman through a bat phone. So whenever he had an issue, whenever he had a problem, he just picked up that phone, boom, he talked to Batman. When I was a kid, that's what I felt was my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever I had any issues, it was directly going to Allah. I wasn't going to some other person in the cabinet and professing my sins, or going to what is supposedly the Son of God. It was going directly to God. And we need to impart that to our children as best we can. Then, okay, last but not least, Luqman, there's different narrations in terms of where he was buried. When he died, they buried him in either Egypt or Yemen, or in Bethlehem. So there's different narrations about where he was buried. But keep in mind that his father's last name was Sadan. I think that's what if I'm going to remember here, was Sadan. But I think that rhymes so much with Sudan that there's got to be some kind of connection here in terms of his birth and possibly his death. But Allah knows best. But he was possibly born in those particular regions. And on the side note too, when I was searching the internet, I thought it was very interesting that I literally could not find a map that said Palestine on there at all. I could not find a map that said that, but that's just another side note of something that I discovered while I was putting this presentation together. So I'm going to end with this and then open the floor up for us to discuss parenting and Luqman and the passages of Luqman and whatnot. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when a son of Adam dies, his good deeds come to an end except for 3: a reoccurring charity, a knowledge that is beneficial, or a righteous child that supplicates for him. A righteous child that supplicates for him. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him, also said, indeed, a man may ascend a level in paradise and ask, who or how did this happen? So it will be said to him, by your child's asking forgiveness for you. So what these two hadiths bring out to me is that if you die, what the righteousness your child carries forward, it can be good for you through either their supplications or their asking for forgiveness. But they're not even going to know to do these things unless we as parents teach our children, teach them to be righteous to children, teach them to pray, to teach them to believe in Allah, have fear and hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this can be sort of selfish in a way. So if we teach them, it's going to benefit us in the end, inshallah ta'ala. With that said, I end. If I said anything beneficial, I'm sorry, if I said anything wrong, it is from my own nafs and from my own lack of knowledge and from my own ego. And if I said anything right, it was from Allah and Allah alone. And I hope that we all can benefit in some way in knowledge. So all that said, I would like to open the floor and turn it over to our lovely moderator, so we can push it along. Man Rakib, I see you have your hand up. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey man, may Allah reward you for your efforts. But my question comes in on something that you said earlier that I wanted you to expound upon. I don't know if I heard you correctly or not. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that I heard you said that it's better for Allah to for us to love Allah more than Allah loves us. Did I get that correct? Or how did you say that?
Oh, I said it where it's important or is better for Allah to love us than for us to love Allah, but there's value in both.
Can you expound on that?
The way I took it, and this is when I was at Talif in the Bay Area, that we can love Allah, right? We can love him in our heart, but we can go out and just do crazy things all day long, right? But that's one level. But the other level is if Allah loves us, to where on the day of judgment, Allah will forgive us for our sins and have mercy for us and protect us from the hellfire on our death and allow us into paradise. And we can only get that through the love and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that carries more weight than what we may feel about him. But that was just that one imam's not just that one imam's, but that was the explanation that I was given.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I would love to hear from you if you have a.
No, I was trying to make sure that I heard the context of what you was trying to say, and I didn't know whether or not you were speaking about the Rahman of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards us and everyone else, or you were speaking about the condition of the heart between, like in this particular case, you're talking about Luqman and his father.
Mm-hmm.
Luqman's heart had a condition to listen to his father, therefore he was obedient to Allah. So for that, his demeanor was already, or his spirit was already in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes. I was trying to understand how you was making that connection, but I think I know in the context of maybe where the imam that you was listening to was coming from. And I think in that particular case that the rahmah of Allah is consistent. Whether we pray to Allah, fast, whatever, Allah still provides us with air. So the love of Allah is consistent because his love is in the rahmah. But in order for a believer to recognize that, he has to also love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have shukr. You follow where I'm going?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Yes. No, thanks for asking them for that clarification, because I'm sure there was other people who probably heard that what and got a little bit confused. So thanks for clarifying that and adding to that. Alhamdulillah. I see Sister Heather has her hand up.
I'm not sure if I'm even going to get this right, but I think it's poignant because it just came off another class with that very theme was discussed, and I think, as I understood it, it means that, of course, if you love Allah, that's great. But if through your actions, your deeds, and your heart, he loves you for those things, that's even greater. I think that's how I understood it in the class I just came off of.
Alhamdulillah. No, and I think you got it in the context in which I intended it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying to get across. So I appreciate you saying that, alhamdulillah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's really important that Allah loves us. That's critical. That's key to it all. That's key to it all. Let's see, is there any other comments, questions from anyone?
Yep, and I see nothing in the chat.
Okay. So we're gonna have a short night tonight. Is that what? Let's see. Let me open this up. Well, I guess one of the other things I sort of get that I didn't touch on too much with this is Luqman started that conversation with his son by saying "Ya Bunay," and it was like my beloved son, and that actually stands out a bit, because when we're giving advice to anyone, and especially to our to our children, we shouldn't start with things like, hey, get over here, I need to talk to you, or something harsh. Well, unless of course they do something wrong that we have to do. But generally, if we want to give them some sound advice, it's good to start with a kind word, something soft, right? And then we sit them down and then we just have a conversation with them. It doesn't always mean that we have to yell and scream to get that point across, but sometimes it's just a matter of having a heart-to-heart conversation. I mean, some of the best conversations I've had with my children is just where I'm talking to them as little men, although they're in their 30s now, but when they were younger, they're like little dudes, they're like little men. So I think we need to treat them on that level. And once they know that we have that respect and that love for them, then they're going to open up and have some conversation, some dialogue with us. So I really appreciate the way that Luqman started that conversation with his child. Okay. Oh, Elizabeth.
Sister Elizabeth, yep.
Yep. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Yes, Sister Elizabeth.
Assalamu alaikum. How's
Yes,
everyone? Sorry, I'm finally in a place where I can participate other than just being in listen only mode. But thank you, Brother Rashid, and I love that this is the class or the halaqah or the topic that ends our series on the rich history of Islam, which I think has been very well attended, mashallah. We can see there's a lot of interest in hearing more about these figures, and inshallah we can do more things like this. It's so weird. I have adult children. I have 2 girls in college, and my children have not accepted Islam yet. Inshallah, ya Rab, they will. And my daughter, just a couple weeks ago, she said, we were watching some YouTube video about a plane that had crashed, and of course there were fatalities, and she said, if we were on a plane together and we only had like 30 seconds, what would you tell me? And I would say, just without thinking, I said, I would tell you to say La ilaha illallah, like,
there you
duh,
go.
you know what I mean? Like, I would clearly just be begging you with my last breath to take your shahada, like, please, and she just like got so emotional, and she's like, wow, really? And I was like, yes. And she's like, you wouldn't tell me you love me? I'm like, well, you already know that. Like, it's, I want to be with you for the rest of our lives in Jannah. You know what I mean? Like, I want you there with me. And she got so emotional because it was like, I think really the first time that she really understood, like, wow, your religion's like really important to you. And it was such a really like bonding moment. And I just, can imagine what, Luqman alayhi salam and, all of the Sahaba, just like what they gave up to follow this religion and everything, all the trials and tribulations. And can you imagine, like, it was so important for them to press upon their children, like, hey, all of this can't be for nothing, like you really, please don't let this die, like with us, like continue this on. And I don't know, that's just kind of, like a real world example. And, I know Brother Rashid, your time out, you talking with your kids and stuff, it's just like, we have to, and as reverts, it's hard. It's hard when we have non-Muslim family members, but we got to try. I think it's just a reminder that we have to, with love and care, try to have these really difficult conversations,
Right.
incumbent upon us.
No, that's a good point. And I, commend you for, like a reflex reaction, like, and so I applaud your effort in saying that to her, because at the end of the day, that's what we want for our children, right? To say that there's only God, there's no other God but God, and so we want our children to say that, and we want to have that in our hearts as on that final day, especially if we're getting ready to go out in a plane crash. We want to have that and impart that advice over to our children. And that's one of the things that Luqman said to his children, said to his child, right? I think it's in ayah number 13 where he mentioned that. So that's just beautiful advice to give them. And I guess and a question I want to ask some of the people out there: are there any struggles that you guys are having with your children, either accepting Islam, not accepting Islam, or maybe even your parents, and how we are forced to communicate with them? about the deen, because they may be trying to direct us or have us do things that aren't Islamic. Sister Raisha, did I say that right?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. She said, no, you did not get that one right.
It's fine. I'm used to the struggle behind my name. It's Raisa.
Raisa. Okay, I
Yes.
won't get it wrong now. Okay.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
No, it's that's
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a good class
Bonet.
for him to be in. When soon as Sister Elizabeth was starting to tell her story, I knew exactly what she was gonna say, and it just made me start crying. Like, because that's what we all want our last words to be. So to have a child who has yet to accept Islam, of course, that's what I want you to say. Because she said you wouldn't say you love me. That to me, that's telling you how much I love you. That's what I want. That's what I want. The last things for you to say to me is La ilaha illallah. That was just like really, because my son is only 5, but I'm constantly trying to tell him about Islam and get him to understand, and I just pray, one of my biggest prayers is for him to love Allah and to continue to practice Islam as he's growing, as he's blessed to have both his parents be Muslim, but to continue on his journey as a young man and a young adult in loving
Inshallah.
Islam. It's like a very important prayer to me. Like it's something I worry a lot about.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for this
alhamdulillah.
class. This is the only class he's actually been around for, so it was just me.
Oh, alhamdulillah. All right, give him my slams. Yeah, well, inshallah, he keeps, you and it's through character, I think, that the children see, a lot. So, the fact that you guys are doing your thing and he's seeing it, that's just building things in his mind. I'm sure he might get a little prayer rug and start sitting next to you and start going in sujood, just to follow you guys. So alhamdulillah.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Brother Rashid, there was a comment by Sister Sarah, I think, but I think it's very, very to the point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to share, it is very painful during labor, subhanAllah. Plus, worrying about a baby's safety the whole 9 months, but it is most painful when children say, when children said their recklessness, harshness, and abandoned parent. But it's most painful. Oh, okay, I got you. SubhanAllah. Yeah, so the whole statement here was, Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to share. It was very painful during labor, plus worrying about our baby's safety the whole 9 months. But it is most painful when children say things recklessly, harsh, and abandoned parents.
Brother Rashid, what that reminds me of, we have a saying in Spanish, and it translates to, little children give you headaches, but big children give you heartaches. And it's, how our adult children can make decisions, and you're just like literally screaming to them, this is a horrible idea. Do not do this. Right. Abort mission. And they just do it anyway.
Right.
Because, that's the world is their teacher at some point. They are just going to learn, they are just going to learn through hard knocks. And, I wonder if that's what Sister Sarah is referring to, because, I think that sometimes too, you as a mom, or you go through the physical labor pains, but I'd go through that 10 more times than to have to hear, my teenage daughter say some of the things that she said to me, like in her teenage years, alhamdulillah, we're out of that phase now, but I don't know. That's how I interpreted that message. I'm not sure what you guys think.
Yeah, that's how I took it too. Alhamdulillah. Did anybody else want to comment on that?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You asked a question about parents and children. Mm-hmm. Well, I have adult children in their 30s, and I remember raising my children in a Baptist church. But of course, I'm a Muslim, and I'm trying to talk to my children. One of my daughters married someone who's a Muslim, but she chose still not to revert to one. I've tried to talk to my children and also my family, who pushed me out the door because I did choose to be a Muslim. But there's like 3 of them. I have 6 daughters. 3 of them respect what I believe in. The other one's fighting me all the way. They won't even have just a slight conversation. And my thing is raising those children in a Baptist church. And I left the Baptist church and I tried every other different religion, and there was almost the same. You ask question, you receive no answer. So I tried to talk to them on that level. And if they trusted me then to take them to those churches, why can't they trust me now that I am trying to put them in a better place, a better understanding, a place where trust and belief are, than to what I thought at that moment, because I followed the tradition of my family. It's the point like, you trusted me then about a religion. Why can't you trust me now? And just try to learn. They don't even want to hear anything at all. So I'm at that point, even though they're adults in their 30s, I'm like, with my hands are loose, I don't know what to do.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, not I got 3 boys, and not all of them embrace Islam. And at the end of the day, I had to really just sort of sit down, or encourage people to just sort of sit down with their child and figure out what the bottom line is. I mean, just down and dirty. What is it about the religion that is a turnoff, or not something that they don't feel will complete them? And if we can get that final answer, inshallah, maybe we can help to turn to turn their hearts. But they just sound like do you know what it might be? Do you know?
I think when I reverted, my family became fearful as far as what society was thinking, afraid of what someone told them about Islam from what they watch in the media. So then and of course, once someone says that, and it spreads like wildfire. Even in my family knew me, we all grew up together. But to quickly assume a lie someone tells you about Islam, and then you pin that on my back, but you never come to me and ask me or talk to me. You can open every book, every movie on television, every magazine, every show, whatever, but you would never open the Quran and just find out who I am now, who I am, what I believe in, and why I believe it. You can come to me and ask me advice for whatever's going on in your relationship, but you want to listen to this, what I'm trying to tell you, that was trying to, how do I say, trying to, you would listen to anything else related to your relationship, but I'm giving you the book to guide you through your relationship, but you don't want to listen to it. All the answers are in the Quran, but you come to me for my small knowledge on everyday life, which I don't have.
SubhanAllah. How old are they?
They start from 30 all the way to 40.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because, and that's, I don't know, this peer pressure thing is kind of huge. I mean, I think the media and other spaces, not to blame it all on the media, but so there's so much negative press and play out there that all Muslims are terrorists and that we're all bad, and all women, are beaten by their husbands, or, oppressed by hijab, or and other things that are out there dealing with women's rights, and how people think we don't respect women. I think sometimes folks deal with that, right? And they're fearful of it. They may want to accept that religion, but maybe that could be one thing that's holding them back, is what's out there in the media. Therefore, everything else really doesn't matter. Shaitan's going to do his thing, but at the same time, there's different things that help them turn away from it. So may Allah make it easy, and I hope at the end of the day that Allah opens their heart and softens their heart to where they at least want to listen to you and want to read and just sit and talk and just have some level of dialogue.
I think the most painful thing is when they don't want to be seen with me in public. I think that probably hurt me more than anything else. Okay,
so that tells me that that's a peer pressure public thing, like that, like they're embarrassed to be around. I assume you wear hijab, in public and whatnot, but they feel nervous or something about that, and they don't like what people are thinking, and that's what it feels like. I don't know if someone else wants to comment on that. We have some beautiful things in the chat space, some wonderful advice, warm advice there. But does anybody else, especially the sisters, want to comment on that?
I think it's a little hard for me to fully speak on that since my son is so young, but I think what Sister Elizabeth says is very true. Just constantly ask Allah to guide them. Allah is the one who who creates Muslims, and you know, if they don't want to hear it from you, just ask them to eventually want to hear it. Ask Allah to have them, you know, guide them to want to hear it. That's the best thing you can do, and inshallah, Allah heals your heart and mind about it as you're asking for Him to bring them to Islam, inshallah.
And I'd also say just like keep being the best version of Islam for them. Like, I think one thing that, you know, my kids were much the same way as your sister, like really combative when I first converted and not very supportive, but they've both really come around because they just finally had to admit, like, you're just happier. Like, you're actually just like a better mom. Like, you're happier. You don't snap at us. You're not as grumpy. I really think that's one thing that's helped, right? Is just trying to be like the best, you know. I mean, again, we're all going to have our bad days because, you know, Allah knows. But I mean, I think when they just see your nur and they see, you know, they see it and make dua, I mean, there's, you know, Allah is to guide them. You can't, that's not on you. I mean, you can do your part, definitely. But I mean, Allah is the one who will have to turn their heart. And, you know, you can do only so much, you know. That would be my advice.
Yes, sister, and I thought that's all of that is wonderful, great advice, and I think something, you know, so we can take to heart, all of us, inshallah ta'ala. But it also made me think about Surah Kaf, where the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I think it was in Ayat 6, where he was like, Allah, he was going to fret himself to death, right? Because he was really concerned about the people not accepting Islam, and it was hurting his heart, and it was really bothering him because he knew it was true. He knew he wanted all of his people, his family, and everybody else to end up in the right place. So he started to have some mental health issues and anxiety and other things. And although the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the most perfect of people, but he felt a certain way about that. And that's a real thing that the Prophet went through. And I think that's a real thing we as parents go through because we want the best for our kids. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's about making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they open themselves up to the deen. And then if they choose not to accept it and you put your best foot forward, then, you know, they have to stand. We all have to stand before Allah for the things that we do and don't do. But, you know, we'll all make dua that that all of our children are the comfort of our eyes and accept this beautiful deen, inshallah ta'ala. So anything. Now, we just went through the holidays, so I'm gonna ask this question, you know, because sometimes parents want us to do and our families want us to do things and get involved in certain spaces that we may feel a little weird about. But we have the right, as it's stated in Surah Luqman, to stand away from those things, but we want to do it kindly. But since we just went through the holidays, did anybody have any struggles or problems in that place? Nobody? Everybody had a peaceful.
I don't know there was a holiday, to be honest. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, like a few months ago, holiday, you know, that whole holiday, ho season.
Yes, I definitely struggled with the holidays with my family. My my mother and my grandmother, they're very big on Christmas, and I live with my grandmother, so when the holidays come around, you know, she's ready to decorate the house and put the tree up and everything, and I'm here living with her to help her, and so I have to help her do those things, and it's very hard for me to surpass and get through the holidays. I'm trying to get away from not involving myself in those holidays, but it's hard for me because that's all I knew my whole life, you know, so I'm used to that normal tradition that my family has always done. Does anybody have any advice on how I can work on that?
Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah. Thank you, brothers, for this presentation. I mean, like, I've been, my name is Ayub Abdul Hakim. I've been a convert for 25 years, and I've been living with everything that I've listened to you guys talk about, and it's been very powerful, actually, and inspiring. And I'd like to I'll give the sister a quick advice of what I do, because I lived through those situations as well, a whole lot. And I kind of use it as my opportunity for dawah in any which way or form. First of all, like the other sister said, you give your best form of a Muslim during those times. Like, I have to be with my family during those times. I even tried in the earlier days. I even tried the removing myself from them, and it wasn't beneficial to me, and it wasn't beneficial to them. So what I do is that I take that opportunity to really put as much as an opportunity for dawah. Like, if it's where that I have an opportunity to just maybe when I'm gathering with the family, I'll have one or two family members that I could spend some time sitting down talking to them sincerely about. I'll sit down and have some strong Islamic conversations with them. But I always use it as my opportunity to give my family dawah. So it brings me ease, because it really is hard to not be around them. And it is hard for me not to be around them as well too during those times, But still, it's a conflict of routine to be part of that scenario of what the holidays means to them, But I just bring it out as much as I can from an Islamic perspective, and that's basically one of the best advice I can offer you, sister, on that approach, Inshallah, that's I hope that's useful in some way or form, and will give you some ease as well too. But definitely, the other sister mentioned that dua is what we have to do for family. That's the main thing that I can do. I've had other family members that took shahada, and I've had some that I would wish that would take shahada, but everything is just through Allah. We just have to have patience and beg Allah guidance to bring that to fruition. I do have a question, if I can ask that as well too.
Inshallah.
When during those times, like when I do have to end up going to like a family event and stuff, because I tend to be maybe, they know I'm very religious, obviously, and they know I'm always praying and stuff. So they always want me to make like the prayer, because my family is, in general, are religious. So at every event or anything they do, there's always a prayer, and they always want me to make the prayers and stuff, but I won't, if there's food there that I know that's not halal, I won't pray at those events. Like I would like find a way to put somebody else that would probably either, Christian base. Like I know that they're practicing, and I know that they're actually more involved. I'll ask them to do the prayer and make them pray, because I just feel that, first of all, like when there's food around, and if I do want to eat it, sometimes, like when I say do want to eat, is like, if there's meat there, if I don't see them praying, and if not like the true Christians that I know, my family, like I know the difference of those who are practicing and those who aren't. And if I'm at an event where the non-practicing ones aren't blessing the food or doing anything in the name of Allah, I don't like, I'll just eat like, like chips or or vegetables, what I mean, but I won't eat any of the non-halal stuff. But if it falls into a scenario that it's like it's Christian that's actually blessing the food, does anybody feel that is wrong for me to consume something like that when it's been blessed by a true Christian that I would consider a true Christian? Inshallah. That's my question.
And there may be some other opinions out there, and definitely there's people in the room that are certainly more knowledgeable than myself. So I'll lean on some of that. But as long as the food is not pork, that's obviously something you want to stay away from. If you know the food is not halal, you feel it's not halal, and it doesn't feel right in your spirit to not eat it, then don't. And the law knows. He knows your intentions, right? I personally think it's flattering that they would want you to lead the prayer, even in spite of what kind of food is there. And I know when my family asked me to pray, I will pray, because I will not say, in the name of Jesus, I'm not going to, we're not eating in the name of Jesus, and all of that's not coming out. But, certainly recognizing God and being thankful and being appreciative for the food that is there. I know that I would have more control of that space, of that prayer. So I would encourage you to do it any and every time, but what you consume is a whole other thing. Right. And if you have to stay away from certain things, and stay away from certain things, that's something we're directed to do by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some people are more strict about food than others, and I get that. But as far as the prayer is concerned, man, I would rather do it than turn it over to someone who might say, in the name of Jesus, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Then I would feel bad. I would feel weird if I actually did that, but that's me. I know we're almost at the 7 o'clock hour, but I would like to hear from anybody else if they have any.
I need if you don't mind. We have I have a poor question I need to ask the audience, so I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So no, it's it's basically feel free to answer all of you. So next week, inshallah, Maghrib will be at 6:01. And it will be that time of the year where it will be tricky. So we have two options: either start the halaqah late, maybe start at like 6:15, or start on time at 6 and then a break in the middle, go pray Maghrib and come back. And we wanted to hear from the audience what's their preference: start on time and break, or start later but do not break. Any preference?
I was actually gonna comment on that, because of being in Sacramento, it's always like right before Maghrib is about to start. So I would say maybe 6:15, 6:30. That's my piece. Or go for about 10 minutes, break for Maghrib, and then come back. Either one works. But I do think about that, like it's like time for Salat.
Yeah, the only reason why we did not want to push it very late is that because sometimes we have people from the East Coast joining. So it's gonna get late for them. But yeah, so any other preference from other people, whether we should start late or break in the middle?
Well, I like to start late. Just starting like a 15 minutes later works for me personally, but whatever the majority is, 15 minutes late, because it's hard to like break and then people come back at different times depending on if they're doing their sunnahs, or it's like, so you don't have to rush. I prefer it to just be later.
Okay. Any more feedback?
I'm on the East Coast, but that does not bother me. Like I think it's fine, because I'm coming from one class to another, so the 15-minute break would be easy for me.
Okay, so it sounds like 6:15 is
6:15 is
the general consensus. What it sounds like.
Okay. 6:15 it is.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so go ahead. I was going to do some announcement and then ask you to make dua, but because it's 7:01.
Yeah, no, we can. Yeah, let's jump into that. But I want to see if anybody had a quick answer for the brother, and then after Qadr, definitely take it.
Referring to the food.
Yes, I think that's brother. That's you're trying to get an answer to that piece, right?
Okay, I'm gonna try to make it quick.
Yeah.
I took other classes too from Maryland, where I come from. Some of the teachers there have told me, like, when you're going out to invitations with your family, either you can bring your own food, if you want to have meat, bring your own food, or if they do have foods there, you may eat like anything that's not meat. Or also, if they are praying over the food and you're Christians, and she said, before they say it in Jesus' name, you quickly say in the name of Allah. And she said, if not, you won't want to be rude, excuse yourself to go like to the bathroom until they finish praying. That is what some of my teachers was talking to me about. But I don't know if that's the exact proper thing to do.
Thank you very much, sister.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do too, because you're making it, you're building your own space that's safe for you, right? And that you're comfortable with. I think Allah knows that we're trying to do those things and protect ourselves. So I think that's very, very, very good advice. Yeah, so Abdulkader, what announcements you got? What we got?
Now I just want to invite everyone. We have a very interesting topic next week, actually. Sister Elizabeth is not here, but I want to applaud her for being the speaker about this very sensitive topic. So inshallah, next halaqah next week, it will be, let's talk about polygamy. Multiple wives as from an Islamic perspective. I know it's very sensitive, could be contentious sometimes, but Sister Elizabeth, she's doing it. So join us next week to talk about this very sensitive topic. And I'll make it short, since just because we're out of time. We have another meeting just after that. So it's up to you, whether Rashid, if you wanna close it up with the dua, or if you wanna add any announcement that I missed, feel free as well.
No, other than after the polygamy one, we're gonna do a full series on Ramadan prep, right? Because Ramadan's coming up, and we want to physically, mentally, spiritually, all the leads, get ready for it, so that we don't just sort of start the month running. We want to start a slow jog now. So we want to have a Ramadan series, and alhamdulillah, there's a great lineup of topics and speakers there. So after the polygamy one, I'm very excited about what the next series is going to be, so we can get ourselves prepared for the holy month. But no, that's it. And alhamdulillah, 7:03. So we'll let's see. Ya Rabbal Alameen, you are the creator, the sustainer, and the maintainer that of all that exists. It is you and you alone who created us and who guides us, who gives us food, who gives us strength. And Ya Allah, we thank you and you alone for the wealth and the health that you have bestowed us with. We ask that you please give salams and blessings on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wives, his kids, and all the Ahlul Bayt, the family of our righteous holy son, holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, we ask that our children please be the comfort of our eyes, and that they please accept this deen, and that we have the best of character to where they'll see Islam in us and accept this religion, and that we follow the path of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of showing good character towards everyone. And Ya Allah, help us to be good children to our parents, and help our parents to be good parents towards us. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Al-asr. Inna insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come out, and inshallah, we'll see you next week.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. Shukran.
Alhamdulillah.